Hello everyone, welcome to Gypsy Jazz Fridays episode 3, the show in which we take a look at some really tasty Gypsy Jazz phrases which we can study all weekend until it's time for Bebop Mondays. And in this episode we're going to take a look at some really challenging but very cool phrases by Django himself. Coming right up. I recently uploaded a backing track for one of my favorite tunes in the Gypsy Jazz repertoire called Some of These Days. And I actually never listened to the recording of Django. I listened to it, but not really actively. So I looked it up and it's a great recording with great solos by both Django and Grappelli, but I noticed that they played a little bit slower. And I noticed that they had a very original way of changing between solos and theme, and I noticed some really cool Django phrases and very challenging Django phrases, and I noticed a very important difference in the chords they were using. So that will all come back when I discuss the licks, but most of them you can just play on my backing track. So I will do that, I will play them on my backing track, and let's just go to the licks. Here they are. And as always, this tab can be downloaded from my Patreon if you want to print it out and look at it in detail. And if you join my Patreon, to which there is a link in the description, you get access to lots of tabs and you will get access to lots of exclusive videos. Now, this first phrase, he plays on E7 to A7. So Some of These Days starts with B7. To E minor, so 2 bars B7, 2 bars E minor, and back to B7 and E minor, and now it's E7. That's where Django plays this phrase. It's 2 bars E7 and then 4 bars A7. So let's just play this phrase and then I'll talk about it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. The first thing to notice is that Django actually doesn't play it like this. He plays it with open strings. He starts. And maybe that sounds a little bit better, but I put it here so that we can play it in other keys. Right? For example, if you want to play this on Sweet Richard Brown, when we go from A7 to G7, you wouldn't be able to play that with open strings, but now you can play it because then you play it here. And the way I find it is I put my second finger on the G sharp, right? That's the third of E7. E7 is right here. And if I play it in this shape, then my first finger will be there, so I just move my first finger back and there we have it. And then it starts with a G. Now there's one little thing in this phrase that happens a couple of times. It's really Django-like, and it's those really little slides upwards. It's almost inaudible, but if you don't do it, it sounds a little bit more boring. And these slides, you could call them little embellishments. They make it sound like the young Django or the old recordings of Django, the 30s, right? When he was doing that a lot, and it just brings some life to the note. And I notated that with the little slides up, the little lines up. So let me play that on Some of These Days. Yeah, very nice. But I do think, though, that in a slower tempo, it sounds a little bit nicer. Right, in the really fast tempo, it doesn't sound Django enough to me. So go listen to the original recording. I'll put the link if it is on YouTube. I actually don't know if it's on YouTube, but if it's on YouTube, I will put the link and then you can hear it. But anyway, I only have this backing track, so we'll have to do with it. Next phrase. So this probably will be impossible to play for me on this backing track because it's just too fast. But this is a triplet lick he plays on E7, and this he plays on the second time E7 is in the song when it resolves to A minor. So this is the lick slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you can resolve it to A minor or up. So this is going to be much too fast to play this on some of these days. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play it on Coquette, which is a much slower backing track on my channel. I will put the link to that backing track also in the description. And there's also a link to a playlist with all my backing tracks. Check it out. And then there's also E7 in the bridge. So I will play it in the bridge. And in the bridge will be E7 to A7. So I will resolve it to A7. So here we go. Go. Still pretty challenging, so the trick is to practice this slowly with a metronome. I think in the end it will not be that difficult. It's just the coordination because the lick is not completely logical. There's some weird turns in it. Definitely doable though. Go listen to Django play it. This is a much easier phrase and super nice. And I'm gonna stick for now. Let's stick with Coquette because this fits over Coquette too. So it's you could say a 2-5-1 to G or a 5-1 to G. It sounds like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I like that there's this B on the D7 with right, the 13. Very Django-like. So this would work great on Coquette. In fact, we can also play it on A7 to D in the A parts, and it would be here. So let's do that too. So I can play it a couple of times. Here we go. Yeah. There I played the triplet lick in the bridge also correctly this time. So great. Let's move on. Now I think it's the first lick possible to play in Coquette. In fact, it is because the bridge of Coquette is E7 to A7, although we would only have two bars of A7. But let me try it, because I wonder how this would sound to Coquette. I think it would sound a little bit more like Django, because the tempo is slower. Let's try that. I'm excited to see how this would sound on Coquette. Probably much better. Here we go. That's much better. But I couldn't play the whole thing though. That's a pity. Let's go to the next phrase. Yeah. So this is a really difficult phrase, but I had to include it. But you really have to hear Django play it, because it's amazing the way he plays it. Let me play it slowly first. 1, 2, 3, 4. One, 2, 3, 4. So even though the picking is not that difficult, it's very difficult to keep this clean and to play this with the right intention, because Django plays it so powerful, with so much power. So a couple of things about this phrase. I like to play, so the first 4 notes or 6 notes is a D, just a D major shape. But now it's all diminished, and I like to play it with this shape. Right? You could also play it with this shape. Same shape, but you use your 4th finger. Or you could play like Django. Actually, it might be easier even. I'm not sure it's easier, but there is a certain kind of feeling to it. You might experiment with all 3 possibilities. I'm gonna stick to the shape. Now, the trick is to realize that you start sweeping from the G string. So I would practice with the metronome really slowly, with an accent on the G string. So to program your hand to go to that sweeping motion and stop playing alternate. And just play it faster and faster. All while keeping the focus on that sweeping note. Let me try it once. Let me see how fast is the Coquette. 1, 2, 2, goody. It's still pretty fast. 1, 2, 3. I could give it a try, but I can't promise I can do this. Not yet. Yeah, I can see myself do it in the future somewhere. Fun to practice though. Let's go to the last phrase for this lesson. And this is just an ending. It's not really a lick, but you know how most Gypsy Jazz songs, or a lot of them, they end with 1, 2, 3, 4, or right, so that lick. Various variations. You could play something like 1, 2, 3, 4, or 3, 4, right, something like that. So this is the one that Django plays on Some of These Days, and goes like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. It's just pretty cool. Pretty easy to play, but it has this nice ending on the third, and then the harmonics. So I cannot really demonstrate it because it's only on the end of the song, but let's imagine we're playing Hungaria, right? So I will play rhythm, it's a song in G, and then I will play this ending lick, and you will hear how it works in the song. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Like that. That's a nice ending lick. That was it for this episode. If you wanted the tap, join my Patreon and you can practice these licks. You can practice them with Some of These Days, but the tempo is really fast. So you can practice them on Coquette or a lot of other tunes on my channel, like Dinah or Honeysuckle Rose. Those are great tunes to practice these licks on. I'll be back tomorrow for my highest level patrons, the highest tier, the Giant Steppers tier. And I will continue my 251 system, the Van Hemert 251 system. And I'll be back the day after with a video with a special topic. I'm getting a lot of questions about the amount of videos I make and so much material and how to deal with that and how to practice that. And not so much how to practice because I made videos about it, but how to deal with the amount of information I produce and if you should practice everything or if you should switch topics and stuff like that. And I have a lot of thoughts on that topic, so that video will be out on Sunday. I hope to see you in the video tomorrow, the Patreon only video, or I will see you Sunday in the video right here on YouTube. Bye!